Mr. Henderson had lovely eyes. That was all I could think of. Framed with dark lashes, they were a clear pale blue, like chips of ice. And yep, that icy cerulean gaze wandered lower. But when the focus returned to my face, he appeared embarrassed, as if he'd allowed himself to look and was ashamed of doing so. This was one closeted dude, or at least someone with some real hang-ups. No wonder someone even as handsome as him was searching for a fake partner. "You are gay, right?" the potential client asked. Was I supposed to answer that question? Yes. The answer was clearly what he needed to hear. "I'll take him," Henderson said, in a kind of awkward, not really aware of what he was saying sort of way. Why did it sound as if he was bartering me for a camel? And hell, he didn't stop talking after that, about contracts and timing and confidentiality, and then he leaned forward with utter determination. "I'm not willing to negotiate on the $30,000, and I would let you know I have full access to a legal department who will, at the drop of the hat, sue the daylights out of anyone who revealed what is happening here." "That won't be an issue." Alan looked meaningfully at me again. "I won't say anything," I said. "That's part of the contract." "My $30,000 buys your discretion, understand?" Why was he talking to me as if I was a child? Discretion was part of this job. I may not have been an expert at this, but that was one rule I knew very well. I could see the pleasure in Alan's expression. I don't remember him saying he charged that much when we last met up with the rest of the college guys. Something about $200 for an event, and that was pretty much it. What would Mr. Henderson expect for $30K? I held out my hand. "Luke Davers." He smoothed his hands on his pants and then shook mine firmly. "Derek Henderson, Henderson McCormick Advertising." Weird that he felt he had to add his company name to the introduction, as if it was part of his identity, and one he needed to reaffirm every so often. "That's a long name," I laughed, attempting to lighten the tone. Gone was the hard-nosed businessman who'd threatened to sue anyone who didn't act with the utmost discretion under this agreement. He was flustered. "No, that isn't my— Oh." He realized I was teasing and released his grip on my hand. "So, details, contracts, and so on." "I haven't agreed to do it yet." "Oh," he repeated. He did that quite a lot, as if he couldn't believe for 1 minute anyone would have an issue with anything he was saying. He was probably used to getting his own way at Boggett and Stumpy or wherever it was he worked. "Have a seat, Mr. Henderson," Alan interjected. "Luke, if you wouldn't mind taking a seat also." I wanted to take a seat all right, preferably back in my small apartment where I shared the space with my mom and the bar below that was my home. It didn't matter that there was no money to be made here. Enough to pay off the rest of the contractor's fees and buy the remainder of the stock. I didn't walk, though. Something in me sparked with a determination to see this through. So I sat down next to the gorgeous preppy guy and looked from Alan to the desk and back again. "This wasn't what I had in mind," I began. Alan held up a hand. "Mr. Henderson, would you like to explain a little more about what you need from the Al Getz agency?" Al Getz was a throwback to college where Alan's slogan was ripped off from Lethal Weapon, where he would say, "You want Al Getz." Derek made a deliberate show of looking at his watch, which was all bling and huge. I was fascinated by the face of it dwarfing his fine-boned wrist. Oh, and how he smelled, which was just subtle and sexy and— "Luke, is that okay?" Derek and Alan were watching me. All the while I'd been staring at the flash of Derek's wrist. I really needed to get out more if the inches of a man's wrist were enough for me to have thoughts that wandered away from the meeting and onto kissing the skin. "Sorry?" I sure as hell wasn't going to say yes to anything I hadn't heard. "Mr. Henderson was suggesting you and he go for a coffee to discuss this, and he's willing to pay for your time." Derek reached for his wallet, pulled up a couple of 20s, and held them out. 10 minutes, he said, "just to smooth over any issues you have." I wasn't going to take $40 off the man to sit and have a coffee with him, and I stood, brushing my cheap suit pants. He didn't need to pay me to talk to me, for God's sake. "Coffee's on me." I wasn't going to argue about this. "Let's go." Behind me, Derek cleared his throat. "Oh,